And we do begin this hour in the Middle East, where at least 11 people were killed overnight during a major military operation carried out by Israeli defense forces in the occupied West Bank. That's according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. It's believed to be the largest attack in the West Bank in more than 20 years. Military leaders are calling it a counterterrorism operation, and Israel's foreign minister described it as a full-fledged war, not unlike what's currently happening in Gaza. The effect has been devastating for Palestinians living in the West Bank. Israel has boosted its use of airstrikes in the West Bank since the war with Hamas started in Gaza on October 7th. And that has put thousands more in danger, overcrowding refugee camps and destroying homes. NBC News international correspondent Josh Lederman joins us now for more on this. Josh, good morning to you. So what more are we learning about these raids on the West Bank, and what's the goal for Netanyahu here, and how long do we think this could keep going?
Well, good morning, Stephen. These raids are heading now into their second day, and there are really no indications on the ground that they are going to conclude anytime imminently. As far as the goal, the Netanyahu government really has suggested that these areas of the occupied West Bank have become hotbeds for terrorist activity, and particularly they are concerned about Iran funneling weapons and other types of terrorism products into the West Bank to be used to really foment violence against Israel. And so the Israeli government suggesting that this is a long time coming. This is part of their broader counterterrorism operations.
So, Josh, was this considered to be a single event that ended up triggering this escalation, or has this just been that continual buildup we've been seeing?
Yeah, we've seen this cadence of periodic Israeli raids into the West Bank really since the start of the war on October 7th, but not with the kind of intensity that we're seeing now, Stephen. This is the biggest raid that we've seen since the Second Intifada. And as far as what exactly triggered this right now, the Israeli government hasn't really specified that, other than to say that they believe that there is a legitimate terrorism concern emanating particularly from Jenin and these areas in the West Bank that they are targeting now with these raids.
So just from a bigger perspective, Josh, are there more concerns both from a military perspective and how Israel is seen on the world stage about Israel carrying out another full-fledged war or a full-fledged front here? Both we have Hamas in Gaza and the Palestinian militants in the West Bank. Are there concerns surrounding that?
Yeah, so you just laid out two fronts, the West Bank and Gaza, but then there's, of course, the third front, which is Israel's northern border with Lebanon, all the fears of a war breaking out there. And so there are certainly military concerns about whether Israel can effectively fight on three fronts at the same time. But as you alluded to, there are also concerns about how this is going to affect international support for Israel, which has already diminished quite significantly since the start of the war in the Gaza Strip. So far during this raid in the West Bank, we've heard from the UN Secretary General telling Israel to stop these operations in the West Bank. And now the European Union's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, is suggesting that it would be totally unacceptable for the war in the West Bank to be extended, basically spread to the West Bank. And so we're seeing a growing chorus of international voices raising concern about these raids that have now turned so deadly in the West Bank. Stephen?
And Josh, we've also heard from the U.S. State Department about these sanctions on Israeli non-governmental organizations. They announced that yesterday. So tell us about those and how Israel is responding.
So the U.S. government has for some time now been sanctioning individual Israeli settlers who live in the occupied West Bank for acts of violence against civilian Palestinians. And now the State Department is sanctioning an NGO, a non-governmental organization that supports those Jewish settlers who live in the West Bank. So this organization says that it helps to support the protective measures for those settlers. But the U.S. government says that that organization has also been very closely linked to individuals in the West Bank who are committing acts of violence, including murder against Palestinian civilians there. And so this is part of an ongoing effort by the State Department to say that even as the Biden administration is continuing to support Israel militarily, they are not going to tolerate acts of violence against Palestinian civilians who are living in their homes in the West Bank, Stephen.
Multiple fronts and even more tension. Our Josh Lederman, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, now to new revelations on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. The FBI is giving us a more detailed view of the shooter and the events leading up to that attack. We have new photos also showing the weapons and gear he brought with him back in July. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley has more.
These photos just released by the FBI showing the weapons and gear used by the man who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump and the way he got up on that roof. This is the semi-automatic rifle he used. The FBI says he likely broke it down and stored it in this backpack as he walked around the rally in Butler last month. And this picture shows the 2 undetonated homemade bombs found in the trunk of his car. The FBI now says he used this air conditioning unit to climb up on the roof where he opened fire. But after nearly 1,000 interviews, the FBI says the motive of the 20-year-old Thomas Crooks still remains unclear.
The FBI has not identified a motive, nor any co-conspirators or associates of Crooks with advanced knowledge of the attack. And I want to be clear, we have not seen any indication to suggest Crooks was directed by a foreign entity to conduct the attack.
Before the event, the FBI says the gunman conducted online searches for campaign events for both Trump and Biden, and the Republican and Democratic conventions.
When this event was announced, the Trump rally was announced early in July, he became hyper-focused on that specific event and looked at it as a target of opportunity.
It seems this attack wasn't very sophisticated. Does that surprise you?
It does not surprise me. Throughout the history of the Secret Service and assassinations and assassination attempts, they're all relatively unsophisticated activities, though they have deadly consequences.
The shooter researched Kennedy's assassination, searching how far was Oswald from Kennedy, the FBI said. While the investigation continues, the FBI said Crooks had no definitive ideology, but they are determining if he wrote anti-Semitic posts on social media.
The FBI said they analyzed the shooter's online activity going back to 2019, when even then he was researching how to make homemade bombs. And the 30 days prior to the shooting, he made more than 60 searches related to Biden and Trump.
All right, our Julia Ainsley. Julia, thanks. Also this morning, we're learning new information on an incident that allegedly happened at Arlington National Cemetery involving former President Trump. He visited there with campaign staff and caused quite a kerfuffle with some cemetery staff members there. NBC News correspondent Garrett Hake has more on that controversial visit.
Present! Oh!
The Trump campaign is defending the candidate's Monday visit to Arlington National Cemetery, now being criticized for politicizing America's war dead on hallowed ground.
What a horrible day it was.
The campaign on Tuesday posting this TikTok highlight video of Trump's trip, showing him laying a wreath in honor of the service members killed at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan and posing with family members among the gravestones. Several campaign staff posting their own content, too.
It's disrespectful. It's not Disney World. It's Arlington National Cemetery, and it should be respected as such.
The visit first drawing scrutiny after a reported altercation between campaign and cemetery staff over photography. The Trump campaign saying a staffer, quote, decided to physically block members of President Trump's team during a very solemn ceremony. A cemetery spokesperson writing, federal law prohibits political campaign or election-related activities within Army National Military cemeteries. Arlington National Cemetery reinforced and widely shared this law and its prohibitions with all participants. The Harris campaign calling it all a sad episode, saying Trump has a, quote, history of demeaning and degrading military service members. The vice president herself has not commented on the incident. Trump running mate J.D. Vance responding.
She wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Kelly Barnett invited the former president to Arlington. Her son, Marine Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover, died at Abbey Gate.
What would you say to people who may be pro-Trump, anti-Trump, whatever their politics might be, who just feel like that's not a place for politicians or for politics?
I would have to say, are you in my shoes? I invited him. My son was murdered under the Biden-Harris administration.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox, attending with Trump, posting these photos. He later apologized for using them in a fundraising email. Garrett Hake, NBC News, Washington.
Garrett, thanks. A militia member who participated in the January 6th attack on the Capitol has been sentenced to 5 years in prison. Kentucky electrician Dan Edwin Wilson pleaded guilty back in May to conspiring to impede or injure police officers and for illegally possessing firearms at home. Prosecutors say he communicated with the far-right Oath Keepers group and other extremists to plan the attack on the Capitol. That ruling comes just days after the first rider to breach the building on that day was sentenced to more than 4 years in prison for his role in the insurrection. Well, the Democratic ticket, Vice President Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, are continuing their two-day bus tour on the key battleground state of Georgia today. And it'll be a busy one for them as they'll hold a rally in Savannah. They'll also take part in their highly anticipated first joint interview of the campaign when they sit down with CNN. NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now with the latest on this. Gary, good morning to you. So the Vice President and Governor Walz already had a pretty busy day in Georgia yesterday for their first day of their bus tour. Where did they end up traveling yesterday, and do we know where they're headed next?
Hey there, Steve. Yeah, a bus tour looks kind of different when you're traveling by vice presidential motorcade, but it is a bus tour nonetheless. And there's a really interesting strategy here being deployed by the Harris campaign. They're focusing on southeast Georgia, by no means a Democratic stronghold. In fact, this is an often forgotten part of the state by politicians. A fun fact of the day for you here. This is the trip marks the first time a general election presidential candidate has campaigned in the Savannah area since the 1990s. So it has been a very long time. And Kamala Harris's first stop on Wednesday was to a rural high school where she met with the school's marching band. Here's what she had to say.
Our country is counting on you, all of you. You are leaders. By the very fact that you all are here in this room, doing what you do, we're so proud of you, and we're counting on you. Your generation, all that you guys stand for, everything you have at stake is what is going to propel our country into the next era.
We're told to expect a few more retail personalized stops like that, some one-on-one interactions between the Democratic ticket and voters in southeast Georgia. And it all leads up to tonight, a big rally in Savannah. Campaign officials tell us that we should expect a little bit of comparing and contrasting between the Democratic ticket and the Republican one. Steve.
Certainly be watching for that one. And Gary, of course, the Harris campaign, they want to keep Georgia blue on election day. It went to President Biden narrowly back in 2020. And Harris herself overall has injected some new enthusiasm in the race for many Democrats. So how is that aspect shaping things up in Georgia?
So it's really about three main things here: demographics, the Georgia electorate, and then losing by less than they did in certain parts of the state than 2020. So first off, VP Harris is really a better demographic fit for the voters of Georgia than President Joe Biden was. The state has more black voters than any other battleground state. And as we've already seen, the connections that Vice President Kamala Harris is able to make with folks like people in her sorority, her stories about growing up, are incredibly effective with voters. And it's also about the electorate. Georgia, and especially the Atlanta metro area, is full of young people. And we have seen in this campaign the excitement from young people online with the memes, with the tweets, with the TikToks. And one of the things that the campaign is focusing on really is that youth engagement.
And another reason today is going to be a busy one for the ticket. Both Harris and Walz are expected to join CNN for that joint interview tonight. What are we expecting to hear from them, and what message are they going to try to get out to voters?
Yeah, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, CNN's going to air this first sit-down interview. It's going to be a more traditional interview. It's not going to be one of these TikTok things or one of the ones that are focused more on youth voters, but it's going to be more traditional, and it's going to be talking about policy-related things, talking about the issues that perhaps Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have not had the opportunity to do because their campaign is only a little over a month old. So Dana Bash of CNN will be hosting this sit-down interview, and it's also going to give the Democratic ticket an opportunity to respond to some of the attacks from former President Donald Trump that has, to this point, over the past week or so, gone unanswered with the VP and Tim Walz down since the end of the DNC.
A lot of people have been calling for an interview like this. A lot of people certainly be watching that. Gary Grumbach, thanks so much. Well, this morning, President Biden's latest student debt relief plan remains blocked after the Supreme Court refused to lift a lower court's hold on it. Yesterday, the High Court denied an emergency request from the White House to lift an injunction from a federal appeals court that put the entire plan on hold earlier this month. Now, back in June of 2023, the administration launched the Saving on a Valuable Education program, or SAVE, which was designed to lower monthly loan payments for nearly 8 million Americans and also shorten the timeline for loan forgiveness. NBC News Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley joins me now to break down all of this. Lawrence, good morning to you. So back in April, several Republican-led states sued the Biden administration to try to block the SAVE program, saying the president didn't have the authority to roll out this broad of a plan without getting approval from Congress first. So first of all, what does this program do, and how do we get to where we are now?
Yeah, good morning. So I guess the first thing to talk about is a little bit of history, which is, about a year ago, the Supreme Court struck down in a different case the Biden administration's sweeping student loan forgiveness plan. So this was kind of their plan B, a slightly more modest plan that they rolled out after the Supreme Court decision that was aimed at reducing payments for some people and then eventually wiping out debt, especially for people with smaller debts after a certain repayment period. But the same group of Republican state attorneys general who challenged the original plan also sued this one, and claiming it had all the same problems that the previous one did, which is that it wasn't explicitly authorized by Congress. And so then this came before lower courts and led to this appeals court injunction. And the Biden administration then turned to the Supreme Court, which was a bit of a long shot, as it were, based on what happened last time. And the court, without any comment yesterday, turned away that request. They didn't rule on the merits of the case, so the case is going to continue coming up through the lower courts, and there'll be some more rulings on this. But for now, the program is going to remain on hold.
And Lawrence, you mentioned the lead plaintiff here, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, that lawsuit he filed claiming the SAVE program would cost American taxpayers about $500 billion over the next 10 years. Who is he saying would actually end up footing the bill, and what's the response been to this?
Yeah, so first of all, the numbers are kind of disputed. The Biden administration says it costs a lot less than that, but that's sort of been going back and forth through this case. But basically, the people challenging the law say that Congress never approved such a sweeping use of power to do this, and that's why it's unlawful. They're saying that, why should taxpayers, this would be the people who they say would be footing the bill, taxpayers, perhaps people who didn't go to college, people who don't have student loan debt, why should they have to subsidize the debt of other people? That's kind of basically the argument. They sort of paint it in sort of elitist terms, as in, these are people going to Ivy League colleges who are having their debts wiped out by hardworking Americans. That's the sort of summary of what their argument is. And so it's very much, as you can imagine, a politicized argument.
Certainly so. And stepping back here, just looking at this practically, with the Supreme Court keeping this hold in place, does that push the timeline for this, for a final decision past Election Day now? And if former President Trump actually ends up winning, what would that mean for this program? Would it just go away?
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible now that if President Trump was to win re-election, that this case would go away because they would undoubtedly change the program. But if Vice President Harris wins the election, then you can imagine this case coming up to the Supreme Court, and they would probably hear the case and we maybe get a ruling in the next year or two.
All right. Well, that timeline laid out now. Lawrence, thanks so much for your time this morning.
No worries. Thanks.
Well, former Alaska governor and Republican vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin has been granted a new trial in her long-standing libel case against the New York Times. Palin filed the original lawsuit in 2017, accusing the Times of defaming her in a piece she contends incorrectly links her to a 2011 mass shooting in Arizona. Palin said the piece damaged her reputation. The Times later acknowledged what it called an honest mistake and corrected the article. A federal appeals court has now cleared the way for a new trial, which Palin originally lost in 2022. It ruled that the judge made a number of errors that, quote, impugn the reliability of that verdict. All right, now for a look of your morning news now weather. That massive heat dome bringing all that late summer heat out east. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us this morning. Hey, Michelle.
Good morning, Stephen. Great to see you. And yeah, we're looking at that heat continuing for some of us, and then some of us getting a little bit of a break. That would be in the Northeast, also New England. We're going to see a big temperature difference there. But 16 million people still impacted by heat advisories. We're looking at parts of the Mid-Atlantic into the Carolinas, the Ohio Valley, also the Tennessee Valley into the south. And we're going to see temperatures into the 90s, close to 100 degrees. Once you factor in that humidity, it's going to feel like over 100 degrees in many spots. So look at these numbers. 101 today in Nashville, feeling more like 102. It's going to feel like 101 in Louisville. St. Louis, same story, feeling like 102 there. And that heat extends all the way down to the south. So Atlanta feeling like 99 on this Thursday. Look at that big difference, though, back to the Central Plains as we go throughout tomorrow. We're looking at temperatures dipping into the 80s, 7 degrees temperature difference, 86 in Oklahoma City. But the heat continues through the Ohio Valley into portions of the south as well. Cleveland tomorrow, 89 degrees. We're looking at 99 in Nashville and 93 in Atlanta. We're going to look at that heat continuing. It's still steamy as we head towards Friday, Saturday, also Sunday, 93 in Charlotte on Friday. Temperatures in the 90s in Birmingham, same story in Dallas, and also Little Rock. So it's going to be a warm Labor Day weekend. That's one story. It's also showery and also stormy in some spots. We're looking at the chance for severe storms, watching them this morning in parts of the upper Midwest and northern plains. And then as we head towards the later part of the day, this cold front, that's the culprit there, is going to head off to the east. So we're looking at severe storms into the Midwest, all the way down to portions of the south central states. And we're going to see the chance for some flooding rain as well. Cooler highs in New England. We're looking at temperatures nice and cool in the 70s. So this is what radar looks like right now. You can see that spin of low pressure. That trailing cold front, that's where all that lightning is and that heavy rain, where you're seeing those darker colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, bringing really heavy downpours. That's going to lead to the chance for flash flooding. It's also going to lead to the chance of some severe storms. 6 million people at risk, especially where you see that yellow shading. So Alexandria, Minneapolis, Spencer, down to Ames could see some strong storms. And we're going to continue to see that as we go throughout the afternoon hours, especially with that daytime heating. You see all that precipitation out ahead of that cold front. Then we're going to see that cold front move off to the east tomorrow. So now we're looking at parts of the Great Lakes all the way down to the south once again. Could see some gusty storms with some hail on your Friday. Today, though, we're worried about flash flooding because we're looking at Duluth, Minneapolis, La Crosse for the chance of flash flooding, and could see some really heavy downpours. It's summer. It's humid. So we could see, those flooding rains as we go throughout the afternoon.
Yeah, we had some bright flashes of lightning, some thunder in New York City last night. My dogs were not a fan of that, Michelle.
I know. I love your pictures of your dog. My dog does not care, but yours is so cute. He needs to be cuddled.
He's scared of buses. He's scared of everything. So not surprised. People, yes. Other dogs, anything.
He's adorable.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
I appreciate it, Michelle. All right, missing out on the Olympic fun? Well, some good news then. The 2024 Paralympics are now officially underway in Paris. More than 4,000 athletes representing 180 countries marched along the Champs-Élysées before the opening ceremony. I want to get that right. Champs-Élysées. Before the opening ceremony in the City of Lights. The show incorporated fighter planes, fireworks, and some dazzling performances from a variety of artists with disabilities. Steve Serio from wheelchair basketball to Nikki Nieves from the sitting volleyball team were named for the flag bearers for the USA team. Now, even more of the world's top athletes will compete for 549 gold medals up for grabs in the next 11 days. And this time, we are in luck. For the first time in Paralympic history, there will be live coverage from all of the 22 sports competitions. A reminder, you can catch it all on NBC and on Peacock.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.